Good evening. Welcome to the Big Story. I'm Regina.
I'm Gretchen.
And I'm Shawn.
Tonight's big stories. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio assures the Philippines that Washington's commitment to the Philippines remains ironclad. China responds angrily, saying the U.S. has no right to intervene in South China Sea issues.
Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro and new U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz meet at the White House to talk about ramping up security ties just 2 days after President Donald Trump is sworn into office.
And after more than a year in Houthi captivity, 17 Filipino seafarers are free at last and will be back home tonight.
The United States' ironclad commitment to the Philippines will continue under the new Trump administration. At least this was the assurance given by new U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in a call with DFA Secretary Enrique Manalo. This is the first time the two top diplomats are speaking since Rubio took office. In a statement, the U.S. State Department said Rubio conveyed that China's behavior undermines regional peace and stability and is inconsistent with international law. It added that Rubio and Manalo discussed ways to advance security cooperation, expand economic ties, and deepen regional cooperation.
In a post on X, formerly Twitter, Manalo said the DFA looks forward to working with Rubio in addressing challenges and sustaining momentum in the Philippine-US relations. Just last week, Rubio had also called out the continuing presence of China's biggest Coast Guard ship inside the country's exclusive economic zone.
China's foreign ministry has responded to this, saying its activities in Philippine waters were reasonable, lawful, and beyond reproach. Spokesperson Mao Ning added that the U.S. was not a party to the South China Sea dispute and has no right to intervene in the South China Sea issue.
Military cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines should not undermine China's sovereignty and maritime rights and interests in the South China Sea, nor should it be used to endorse the illegal claims of the Philippines.
Actually, we weren't able to cut that soundbite in full, but the rest of her answer was actually quite long. And she goes on to say, and I quote verbatim, the United States is not a party to the South China Sea issue and therefore has no right to intervene in the matter, which is something that they've said.
I was going to say that they've been very consistent with the messaging.
Right. For many years now. But this brings us back to the question of what is that relationship going to look like, the U.S. and China, right? We are 2 days into the new Trump administration, and already there's some tip for tat.
Well, it's
There's
quite
back and
a
forth.
powerful conjecture that after the Quad meeting with India, Australia, U.S., and Japan, here goes the call with the Philippines, affirming the ironclad commitment to our country and also the continuing support of the United States. I mean, also we have Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro meeting Mike Waltz in the United States.
But
so
that's the thing. I mean, 2 days in, and these are the things that are being addressed.
That's the message.
That is the message. The timing is everything.
that countering Beijing will be a top priority for this administration.
Right. Day one, they met with the Quad officials, you're right, talking about security in the Indo-Pacific. And day two, he's speaking to Secretary Manalo, saying that, yes, the U.S. affirms the ironclad commitment to you. And again, underscores the fact that the policy around a free and open Indo-Pacific was actually first
that term was Trump 1.0.
That's right. That whole policy was first brought about, was first coined during the first Trump administration. So that's something that they keep underscoring. So I guess we have our answer, right?
Yeah. We can hold on to that.
I wonder though if we will see the Marco Rubio here in the Philippines.
He has been here.
He was here before.
Right?
Yes.
If I recall
like
correctly.
in this new administration.
Right.
It
before,
will be
when he was a
powerful
senator.
message.
Right. And also, conversely, whether President Marcos will be invited to the White House again at some point, right? Because when President Marcos won, actually, former President Joe Biden called him within a few days and was the first foreign leader to call Marcos and invite him to the White House. The question now is whether he's going to get that same
Because Trump and Duterte,
courtesy.
if you're going to compare it like this, I mean, Trump and Duterte, they were good, right? They were kind of, I don't know, they were friends. They got on fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they would call each other to congratulate each other because Duterte won first because our elections were earlier.
Remember, Trump got into a lot of trouble for calling Duterte, what was that? A great man or something like that.
Yeah.
He was asked about the meeting with Duterte by American reporters, and he said, "Oh, you know, it was good. He's a great man," or something to that.
But then
effect.
again, Trump also calls like Kim Jong-un really great and a great
Diba?
friend.
He has this penchant for authoritarian.
Well, there's a lot on President Trump's plate.
Uh-huh.
3 different conflicts around the world.
But again, very strong signal about their priorities and how the Indo-Pacific plays into this. As we were just saying, certainly lots of talk about security this early in the Trump administration. Also today, or January 22 in U.S. time, as Gretchen mentioned, Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. met with newly appointed National Security Advisor Mike Waltz at the White House. Teodoro was joined by Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Babes Romualdez. Coming just 2 days after Donald Trump took office, the Department of Defense says this makes the Philippines among the first countries to engage with the new American administration to discuss critical security matters. In its press release, it said Teodoro congratulated the U.S. on a successful transition and highlighted the importance of strengthening bilateral defense ties in addressing emerging geopolitical challenges. The statement also said Waltz and his team underscored the need to enhance cooperation with the Philippines and looked forward to increasing mutual security activities in support of a free and global Indo-Pacific, an initiative dating back to the first Trump presidency, as we were just saying.
That's right. It's also the wedding anniversary of Melania and Donald Trump.
Oh, wow,
on
I didn't know that.
Jan 22. Oh, okay.
Is that why?
She's
You're trying to-
manifesting.
Manifesting.
Theme, you know, in theme tayo.
So you're part of the. Were you invited to their
No, I'm
anniversary
just
dinner?
celebrating it.
Why not? She's celebrating love, right? It's like 20 years now, I think. So
Not,
happy.
okay, not to talk about your political affiliations, but okay.
Okay, guys, it's not just in the Indo-Pacific. Security in the Middle East, of course, remains one of the biggest concerns. And today brings a spot of good news in that department. The 17 Filipino seafarers held hostage by Houthi rebels for more than 1 year have been freed. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes with that story.
This is the first time in so many months that these seafarers' feet literally touched dry and solid ground. These 17 Filipino crew members of MV Galaxy Leader were cooped up inside a ship hostage by Houthi rebels off the Red Sea since November 2023. The seafarers endured more than a year of captivity, while the Philippine and other foreign governments negotiated for their freedom. The back and forth only ended when the Sultanate of Oman held a series of unrelenting dialogues with the Houthi group. And the temporary truce between Hamas and Israel was key in the release.
We have to thank also countries like the US, Egypt, Qatar, who were responsible for getting the Israeli and Hamas ceasefire deal together, no?
President Bongbong Marcos thanked the Sultan of Oman, Haitham bin Tariq, for his government's successful mediation. Marcos also cited the hostage Pinoy seamen as inspiration and reason for his signing Republic Act 1 2021, otherwise known as the Magna Carta of Filipino seafarers. The law aims to protect the rights and overall welfare of seafarers while promoting full employment and equal opportunities for them in the maritime industry. Anytime tonight, these 17 seafarers will arrive in Manila from Oman and will immediately undergo psychosocial intervention.
They're traumatized, but I'm sure home is a great medicine. Pag nakauwi na sila. Walang injured if you mean that. No? They were treated well. Tumaba nga yung iba sa kanila. So at least that, alam natin, no?
There are hard lessons learned from the ordeal of the freed seafarers. An earlier warning from the Department of Migrant Workers comes to light. Ship owners should note safe routes and avoid the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden because of rebel hijacking incidents there. The DMW has also reiterated to workers at sea that they have the right to say no to traveling in warlike or conflict zones. Seafarers opting out of dangerous assignments can always go back to the Philippines free of charge and will be entitled to 2 months' worth of salary. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes, we are One News.
Well, Secretary Teodoro is not the only cabinet member overseas. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto is in Davos, Switzerland for the annual World Economic Forum, together with House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Recto is head of the Philippine delegation this year and was also joined by Trade Secretary Cristina Roque and Philippine representative to the WTO, Manuel Antonio Tihanki. They held a Philippine breakfast interaction with foreign investors, with Recto urging them to choose the Philippines and saying he will ensure their success through the recently enacted Create More Act. Create More aims to improve ease of doing business and expand tax incentives. Some of the officials who attended the breakfast were from companies like SEB, a Nordic financial services group, Grab, Lippo Group of Indonesia, and AMTD. While in Davos, Recto also met with the co-founder and CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong. Coinbase is one of the largest cryptocurrency companies in the world. The finance department said Coinbase initiated the meeting and conveyed its strong interest in expanding here in the Philippines. And finally, Recto also met with chairman of Revolut, Martin Gilbert. Revolut is a global fintech leader and has digital banking operations in the UK and Europe, boasting some 50 million customers worldwide. DOF said Revolut likewise expressed strong interest to enter the Philippines.
All right, bringing it back home to the Philippines, where Senator Amy Marcos has broken her silence over issues hounding the 2025 budget, saying she did not sign the BICAM report because she was afraid.
Yes. Talaga, yun ang dahilan kung bakit umalma nga ako at tuluyang hindi ako pumirma. Kasi natatakot ako sa mga blanco-blanco at kulang-kulang na mga datos.
Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel urged fellow congressmen in the BICAM to speak out on the issue. After thorough review, Manuel identified 14 blanks in the ratified copy of the BICAM report. 8 blanks were found under the Department of Agriculture and the Office of the Secretary. 2 blanks were from the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, 1 from the PCA, the Philippine Coconut Authority, and 1 from the National Irrigation Administration. 2 more blanks were under unprogrammed appropriations.
Disappointing to know na totoo na yung BICAM report na nakarating sa mga mambabatas na niratify ng House at ng Senate ay may mga blank.
Senate President Chis Escudero took issue with Davao City Representative Isidro Ungab, who raised concerns about the blanks in the bicameral committee report.
Ang hindi ko maintindihan sa nagrereklamo, dati siyang naging APRO chairman, alam niya patakaran. Pero ito ang alam ko, wala pang dineklarang unconstitutional na bicameral conference committee report. Ang tanong, yung GAA ba, yung General Appropriations Act ba, yung enrolled bill ba, may blanco ba? Hindi tama na mag-akusang may blank check na binigay ang Kongreso. Mali yun. Kasinungalingan yun at hindi totoo yun. At kung blanco man yung nasa GAA, hindi pwedeng i-release ng DBM yon. Hindi pwedeng i-release ng National Treasury yon.
Well, quick break now, but up next, an underwater drone was reportedly spotted in Bohol, adding to several already discovered by the armed forces. We'll be speaking with Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad of the Philippine Navy to clarify that. When the big story returns, keep it here. You're so watching the big story here on One News. The Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, ceasefire panel has started its own investigation into yesterday's encounter that left 4 people dead and injured 12. Among the dead were 2 soldiers from the Army's 101st Infantry Brigade, which has since condemned the ambush. According to the MILF Ad Hoc Joint Action Group, there was no coordination with their group about the arrival of the United Nations Development Program members and their military escorts. Clips and photos uploaded to social media show alleged MILF fighters celebrating with a burning military truck. Presidential Peace Advisor Carlito Galvez has also condemned the attack, describing it as a cowardly act perpetrated by lawless armed men who intend to derail the peace process that Basilan now enjoys. Galvez also urged the MILF leadership to hold accountable those involved. Bangsamoro Chief Minister Ahod Ibrahim called for calm and urged all parties to address the incident through appropriate channels. For his part, Basilan's governor sees the incident as an isolated case.
Ito reason para dapat itigil yung mga initiative sa ground.
I actually got the chance to go to Basilan, and when we were there, there was an encounter somewhere. So the peace in Basilan is relatively new and fragile.
I was going to say very tenuous.
These steps are we are in the trust-building process between the government
So this
forces
is a big setback.
and,
It is a
and
big
the
setback.
MILF. And yung sinasabi nila ng joint peace group, magkakatabi yan ng mga AFP natin, pati yung mga MILF. Meron sila, parang they guard the security in Basilan.
Together.
Yes.
Together.
And they hold each other accountable. So what happened here was definitely
Very
a huge
unfortunate.
setback.
No, and it calls to question like the willingness of the MILF and their capability to control
To
their
uphold
troops, to uphold the
their
peace
end
in
of
their
the
region,
bargain,
right?
yeah.
Especially now that
That's correct, that's
we're,
correct.
we're going through the transitionary
But I
period.
think they're policing themselves.
They are.
But
But then this is such a big loophole. And supposedly those 2 guys that they arrested from the non-lawful side, the lawless side, quote unquote, they're they've been involved in a lot of RIDO, which are saying that's one of the other issues
Meron
that's
kasi
rampant down
may
south.
rogue forces eh. So the main MILF is with the government in the peace
Is
process.
willing to see through the
but
process,
there
pero
are
may
rogue elements.
Yeah.
And then when we went to Sumisip, because that's near Sumisip town, we actually had to give a heads up to the AFP. So they were telling us hindi pa ganun ka safe. So daan medyo sensitive pa, kaya talagang kailangan kasama mo. So yung UNDP hindi sila nagpa-abiso no sa government.
Yun nga, they
Yun actually,
also,
it was an event from the UNDP
Yeah.
that they were trying to secure, parang advanced party securing. And then while the troops, the soldiers were trying to secure the area, ay biglang nilusob sila.
Tsaka bawal pa bumiyahe dyan paggabi.
Right.
So
Maybe
it's
somebody
that
dropped the
fragile.
ball in terms of the logistics
correct.
as well. Meanwhile, there is another investigation underway, this one in Bohol, and this time over the reported sighting of an underwater drone there. A video of the silver and red drone floating near a Finnish fisherman's boat circulated online since last week, and allegedly the fisherman chose to not retrieve the drone because he was afraid of it. The AFP is appealing to the person who discovered the device to immediately coordinate with them so they can retrieve it and ensure proper handling and inspection. Let's get more details now on this from we have with us tonight Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, Philippine Navy spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, and he joins us on the line. Good evening, Rear Admiral. Can you hear me? Rear Admiral Roy Trinidad, can you hear me okay?
Okay, I guess he has it. So
We are having technical difficulties right now, as you can see.
yeah, okay. Just a light question. If you saw that thing in the water, would you dare touch it? I mean, it kind of looks like a rocket. It's kind of
It does
scary.
look like a
It do-
missile.
Yeah, it
The
doesn't look
shell
like
of a
drone.
missile, yeah.
I'd be afraid it would speed up to someplace. and
Like,
hurt
right?
me-
Or
hurt
someone
me
would
in the
turn it on
process,
while you're
right?
touching it. I would be scared, so I don't blame the fisherman for not picking it up.
So at this point, they don't know who it was who posted the video, it sounds like. Because we were trying
They
to
saw
find
it on
more.
Facebook.
Oh, we were trying to find more information about this, but they haven't tracked down the person yet.
Yes, the early reports that were given by the AFP, they said they're trying to track down the person who posted this video on Facebook and to try to recover the drone. Okay, I think we have Rear Admiral back on, Reg.
Rear Admiral Roy Trinidad, do we have you on the line?
Yes, good evening, ladies.
Good evening, sir. First off, let's talk about the drone, the alleged drone sighting in Bohol. Can you give us more details on it? Have you managed to track down the source of the video?
Yes, this was actually, the picture was taken last year, July, by a fisherman in Bohol. And then, hindi niya ito nailabas kasi hindi niya alam kung anong gagawin niya sa picture. Yung item iniwan niya sapagkat hindi niya alam ano to, baka may sasabog o what. Because only recently when we saw pictures online about the Masbate zone, na nailabas niya ito. Na-contact naman siya ng Naval Forces Central. He was contacted, nakausap naman siya. And we confirmed na last year pa nga yung picture na nakuha niya.
Okay, last year pa po ito, is there no possibility that it could still be in our waters, or is there a way to track these drones kung ganyan po napalutang-lutang?
Yes, actually, binalikan kinokontak ng ating Naval Forces Central in Cebu na trying to get back to the location kung saan niya nakuha ng picture. Just to be sure na it is still there or makita pa nila or ma-retrieve pa natin.
Just to clarify, Rear Admiral, nung nakita nung fisherman itong drone, did he report it, apart from taking a video, obviously, was he able to report it to anyone there, Coast Guard or yung LGU niya, or did he just keep quiet about it?
Ang report sa atin ng Naval Forces Central is when they talk with the individual, the fisherman, si Rodel Alcalde, he just mentioned that natakot siya sapagkat hindi niya alam. It looked like a torpedo to him. So he got a picture of it and then na-videohan niya, then iniwan niya. Only recently when we saw the yellow drone from Masbate na nagpa-viral, did he bring out his video and pictures.
Dear Admiral, have we identified the drone that we're seeing in the video and what kind of data it can get?
Yes, just based on the video and the pictures. Ito ay kapareho ng yellow drone and the red drone that was recovered in Initaw, Misamis Oriental. So we could say that most likely, parehas ang objective ng drone na to collect bathymetric data.
I'm sorry, to collect what?
To collect bathymetric data.
Okay.
Depth of water, salinity, temperature.
Underwater data, no, in plain speak, Rear Admiral. Yeah. So in any case, I was wondering about the colors because nung lumabas yung blue and yellow drone sa Masbate, ginugol ko po at parang halos lahat. And I remember, Gretchen, naalala mo, tinatanong kita, bakit ba lahat sila yellow? And then,
Baka kasi
makikita
kita-kita.
underwater.
Pero marami pa palang kulay.
Yun nga, meron palang itong kulay na medyo gray and red. Rear Admiral, meron bang sense kung ano yung kulay? Like, does it mean it belongs to whoever? Ganon, kumbaga, country colors ba yan? Or what?
As of now, we have not established any correlation with the color, pattern, and the use of the glider drone. But generally, these are used to collect data on the water. We call this bathymetric data.
Bathymetric data, yon. Napakahirap i-spell, no? Rear Admiral. But I'm just concerned because of this drone and the blue and yellow one from Masbate, you guys are actually reported na 5 po ang underwater drones that you guys found for the whole of 2024. Have you been able to establish a connection between these drones, except for this one from Bohol, of course, because we haven't found it, but the other 4, may connection po ba?
Yes, yung una sa lahat, lady, yung mga fishermen natin naka-report sa atin. And then, nakuha lang natin. So, yung unang drone na nakuha sa Calayan Island in the northern part of the country, natapos ng forensics nito at nakita nga natin na it is used to collect bathymetric data. Ito ay kulay itim. Yung sumunod ay kulay itim din also in Calayan Island. Yung pangatlo, another black one, which was found in Asukin, Ilocos Sur. and then yung yellow, yung red sa may Initaw, Misamis Oriental, and the yellow one in Masbate. Ang masabi ko lang, generally, these are used to collect data, underwater data or bathymetric data.
Okay. Apart from military purposes and collecting data for military purposes, Rear Admiral, pwede bang, possibly bang inosente lang itong mga drones? Like maybe may mga nag-doctorate students, hobbyists, marine biologists or whatnot?
Yes, it's possible. But what is common here is that these are used to collect data underwater, and this information could be used for economic purposes. This could be used for scientific research. It could also be used for military applications.
Okay, recently kasi we were talking about yung nahuli po sa Makati na Chinese national that he was mapping out certain infrastructure using LiDAR and some equipment that could easily be purchased online. These things look like they're a bit harder to procure, no? But do you think this is doing, can these drones do those things? Kumbaga, i-map yung underwater features, yung continental shelf, or all those?
Actually, that was my question too. What specifically can it map out? Ano yung data can it collect?
Which one, the drones or yung sa Chinese national?
Both. Well, not the Chinese national because that's beyond your remit, pero yung the drones po.
Yes, yung sa drones, this gives us information about underwater information. Depth of water, salinity, sound propagation, temperature. All of this information are critical. They have economic use, they have academic use, they also have military use.
Ito po ay yung pinaka-late po na, ito pong nakita po sa Bohol. Pag titignan niyo po yung mapa natin, ang Bohol ay nasa may dulo ng Visayas before Mindanao. Technically, these are internal waters. Ito po mga underwater drones ay nasa internal waters. Itong 5 po na nakita po ninyo.
What is common among the 5? Among the 6, isama ko na yung sa Bohol. Except for the one found in Pasukin, yung 2 sa Calayan, yung isa sa Masbate, isa sa Initaw, isa sa Bohol. All of these are along our choke points or international sea lanes.
Oh, that's very
So when
interesting.
you say Calayan Island, Norte, you're looking at Balintang or Basi Channel, Northern Passage yan. Yung Masbate, that is just west of San Bernardino Strait. Yung sa Bohol and sa Initaw, Misamis Oriental, this is west of Surigao Strait.
Yes.
So lahat ito ay mga choke points or mga dinadaanan. Critical areas to. Kumbaga kung sa lupa ito, these are mobility corridors.
And if these would be compromised, then it would restrict our movement going outward. Is that correct?
Not really compromised. If anybody would need data on the underwater environment, if they have plans of passing there beneath the surface.
You're talking like if there was, for example, a submarine, yun yung mga data na kailangan niya, the bathymetric data, para alam niya saan siya dadaan. Para bang Google Maps underwater, ganon, Rear Admiral?
Parang ganon na. They need the information and also the propagation of sound. How does sound travel in these restricted areas?
How sound travels.
Because it could also be used as a weapon. Remember in Sandy Cay, merong mga sonar,
sonar equipment.
Na ginawa para mabingi yung mga nagsasurvey dun sa ilalim.
And is that why, Rear Admiral, you know, a few days ago you were quoted as saying that you feel like there is a deliberate and calculated move to map out the Philippines by a foreign power, quote unquote?
Yes, we don't have to look far. We just have to connect the dots, and without naming any foreign power. These incidents are not happening in isolation.
Okay.
If we connect the dots, yung political figure natin with a dubious background, yung foreign nationals na nahuli sa Palawan with fake government ID, yung mga foreign nationals with fake birth certificate of the Philippines, yung nahuling national last week, yung last year, yung drones, all of these seem to point to a pattern of a foreign power trying to know more information about the country.
What what gives you such confidence that there is a connection to all of these, connection amongst all of these incidents?
Again, I mentioned, ladies, that these incidents do not happen in isolation. There is a pattern. There seems to be a pattern already. Now, it would take more studies or kumbaga, more scientific proof or evidence to say kung ano talaga ito. Sino talaga ang may kagagawa nito.
I'm curious lang, while we're on the topic, Rear Admiral, meron bang mga rules tayo or laws or guidelines, international or local or both, governing the use of these underwater drones? May ganun po ba?
What I know of is the conduct of researches within the EEZ of a coastal state. Different coastal states would have different practices because UNCLOS is silent on that. For example, the United States, they allow, or for them it is okay to conduct military research within the EEZ of a country because these are not economic in nature. But for them to conduct economic research on the EEZ of a country, they is not allowed. Other countries would have different practices, how to enforce that.
So to simplify it, Rear Admiral, kung meron kang drone, whether the purpose is military, academic, or commercial, kailangan magpaalam pag nasa loob ng EEZ?
In the ideal world, yes, kailangan magpaalam.
Okay.
Kailangan magpaalam.
Rear Admiral, tayo po ay tinutulungan ng ibang bansa para magkaroon tayo ng mga satellites to be able to track movements in the West Philippine Sea. Do we have capability to track drones, or is this still out of our reach?
Unless we are given a specific area and told what to look for, these are quite small, 3 meters, 3.5 meters in length. Hindi ganun kalapad. So it will really be difficult. And kung submerged sila, mahirap mahanap ito. Unless we get the information, especially from our fisher folks.
What is our policy when we see a drone? Because we can't issue challenges to it. Wala po ba yung parang shoot it down? O, meron po ba tayong protocol na ganon?
Kung nasa dagat, wala pa tayong guidance yan, but it is assumed na ito ay walang pahintulot. So ang guidance natin, ang sinasabi natin sa ating mga fisher folks, maging alerto, magmasid sa karagatan. If they see anything suspicious, kung makuha nila o ma-report sa authorities, mas kailangan natin yon. Yung report nila.
Rear Admiral, you don't want to name countries, and I understand your position, but I am going to bring up China here because actually they were asked about it. During a regular press conference, the Chinese Foreign Ministry was asked about the NBI saying that they found an alleged Chinese spy, about General Romeo Browner saying the spy was found near U.S. military bases in the Philippines, and also Justice Secretary Boying Remulla saying they would ensure an airtight case. And the response of the Chinese was, "We hope the Philippines will stick to the fact, stop shadow chasing, stop peddling the so-called Chinese spy story, and earnestly protect the lawful rights and interests of Chinese nationals in the Philippines." Could I have your response to that, please?
Yes, the Chief of Staff and other government officials already mentioned China. When I was saying that there seems to be a pattern, I'm referring to the entire picture of all the other incidents. So to correlate this just because of one incident, I believe I'm not in the position or it's not at the right time for that. But on the statement of the SILG and the Chief of Staff and other government officials, yes, they have already mentioned that this is a Chinese national, he's been living in the Philippines for 10 years, married to a Filipina. And I believe when they say that, they have all the proof or the evidence to be able to ensure that it will stand the test of any trial, any case.
So reading between the lines, does that mean also when we refer to foreign power, we're not necessarily just referring to China? There could be others?
For this situation I was referring to, that connecting all the dots, I would not yet say what particular country.
Okay, fair enough. We're going to have to leave that there. Thanks so much for joining us tonight to talk about this. That was Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, Philippine Navy spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea.
All right, let's pause for another quick break. Right after that, the alarming rise in teen pregnancies has sparked crucial conversation about comprehensive sex education in the country. And we will be speaking with an advocate for proper sex ed, Roots of Health Chief Amina Evangelista, Swanpool. That's when the big story returns. Keep it here.
The Asian Tour Philippine Open 2025 is about to kick off with 144 participants vying for the coveted trophy. As mentioned, the Asian Tour Philippine Open kicks off with 144 participants. Several of those are our very own Filipino golf. They shared their thoughts on the 10-year hiatus and having it back in home turf.
My experience has been amazing. It's nice because you see a lot more of this professional setup internationally, and now it's brought to the Philippines, so it's perfect. In terms of playing this event, I'm just so happy that we get more opportunities as Filipino golfers to just compete in the big stage.
It's the return of the Philippine Open. This is a very special event, not only for me but for all the other Filipino golfers. It's a very prestigious event. I'm really happy it's back on the Asian Tour after 10 years.
It's really important because I don't think we had an international tournament for the past maybe 4 years. So it's good for an international tournament to finally come back here. So I'm excited to finally play at home and compete against the guys abroad.
It's very good that the Asian Tour came back after all this time. We don't have that much events here. It would be nice if there were more, but the Philippine Open being back since 2017, if I'm not mistaken, it's really a pleasure and an honor to play, especially against these Asian Tour guys. It's a good way to test our mettle, see where our skills stand, and it's a pleasure playing with these guys also, Asian Tour players.
My experience for this week, I'm really having fun. I'm having a really great time. I'm thankful for NGAP and Philippine Open for inviting me this week. Not taking it for granted and just trying to soak it all in and learn from the best.
Just like what our Pinoy athletes shared, having the Asian Tour kick off in the Philippines not only challenges each one of them, but gives our golfers the opportunity to learn from the best. The Philippine Open runs from January 23 to 26 at the Southwoods Golf and Country Club. This has been Bea Escudero.
And you're still watching the big story here on One News.
In other news, Senator Risa Ontiveros has filed amendments to the anti-teen pregnancy bill in an effort to save the criticized version of the legislation. Quite an important bill, considering pregnancies among Filipino adolescents aged 15 below has seen a significant increase in the past years. Rainiel Pawid with the full story.
In this home in Tondo, we met this teenage couple who we hid behind the names Jane and Jet. They've been together for 3 years. Last year, Jane got pregnant. She was only 14 then, and Jet a year younger. Both had to stop going to school. And now, instead of books and homework, Jane and Jet spend their days taking care of a 4-month-old baby. Jet admits to have attended sexuality education classes when they were still in school, but the classes were lacking.
Aware po naman po. Pinagsasabihan po ako lagi ng kaibigan ko. Kaso di po Opo.
The young couple now live with Jet's mother. They share this small room and their needs provided for by the teenage father's parents.
Wala pa po kasing makuha ang trabaho, tsaka ano pa po ako. Bata pa po. Wala pa sa tamang edad.
Jet and Jane still want to continue their education despite already having a child to raise. Both will return to school this coming June. Jet grade 9 and Jane on 8th grade.
Ano ba pangarap mo?
Maging police.
Sinong inspirasyon mo?
Family ko po.
Jane is now among the thousands of adolescent girls who got pregnant under the age of 15. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority in 2022 showed a total of 3,135 girls of Jane's age gave birth. That's 35.13% higher than those recorded in 2021. This is part of the reason why Senator Risa Hontiveros is pushing for the Prevention of Adolescent Pregnancy Act of 2025. The bill, however, drew a lot of flack, even from President Marcos, who called it ridiculous, abhorrent, and full of woke absurdities, even though some of the provisions he was talking about was not actually in the bill. At least 7 senators withdrew their support for the bill after the president's remarks. Hontiveros has since filed a substitute bill which hopes to address criticism and concerns. This new version now also includes recommendations from Senate President Chis Escudero. There were 3 big changes in the substitute bill. First is the removal of the phrase guided by international standards, which many people misinterpreted. Second, it limited sex education classes to children 10 years old and above. And third, it adjusted the access age to reproductive health products to those 16 years old and above.
I hope this allays valid and genuine fears. I hope this helps bring us senators together to finally pass a prevention of adolescent pregnancy bill that our country so desperately needs. Ito po'y nananatiling acceptable sa mga advocate groups ng mga child rights advocates, mga adolescent rights advocates, mga kapwa ko magulang.
All right, let's now talk to one advocacy group that has its boots on the ground when it comes to sexuality education. We are speaking to the executive director of Palawan-based Roots of Health, Amina Evangelista Swanepo. Welcome to the big story, Amina. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks so much for having me.
This is obviously a very heavy topic, but first let's put into context. Roots of Health is an advocacy group. Tell us all about it. When did you start, and what are you trying to do here?
Sure. So we are a reproductive health organization. We have been around for 15 years, and we've been based in Puerto Princesa, but also have been doing some work outside of Palawan. And our goal has always been to improve reproductive health. And the 3 main issues that we've been working on are maternal deaths, unplanned pregnancy, especially teen pregnancy, and reducing HIV. And so the main way that we have done this is through providing comprehensive sexuality education to young people in schools, in communities, online, and coupling this with access to clinical services, as well as helping our government stakeholder partners to improve their services. And we've really been so happy with how our work has gone, because actually in the last few years in Puerto Princesa City, the teen pregnancy rate has gone down by 60% actually. So this is quite significant. So kumbaga, we have proof of concept. We can show that having this holistic mix of information and services and support for our government partners, it really works. And CSE, or comprehensive sexuality education, is a huge component of this and something that is very, very important to us. And I just wanted to say I'm so happy that this story that you started with the story of Jane and Jet, because I think with all of the misinformation that's being spread right now, with all the controversy, with all the drama, I think we're losing sight of the problem, which is teen pregnancy, which continues to be a huge problem. There are so many young people like Jane and Jet, and we really need to implement comprehensive sexuality education so that we can protect young people so that they do not end up as young parents like this couple that you featured.
Amina, in how long have you guys been doing this advocacy? Because that 60% decline in the teenage pregnancy rate in Palawan, that's a huge number. So I just want to know over how long that happened, and like what are the steps you took? Like how many years is the program of sex ed that you implement to these children for you to be able to see the results?
Yeah, well, so this kind of impact takes a long time. So we've been doing it for 15 years, and it's only in the last few years that we've actually started seeing that number decline. And this is why we've always said, even during the debates for the RH law, when people were looking for a silver bullet, when they're looking for that one thing that is going to solve the problem, we kept saying, no, it doesn't work that way. This is a very complex issue. There are so many factors that go into this. So you really have to be holistic in your approach, and you really have to be able to tackle a lot of different issues. And so what we've done, basically before the pandemic, we were teaching a lot in public high schools all over Puerto Princesa City and all over Palawan. In fact, up until about 2019, at the end of 2019, we had taught 100,000 young people. Because of the pandemic, we had to pivot, and so we created a lot of materials for online consumption. And a little bit later on, we actually had a project with DOH and Commission of Population and Development to create a Tagalog website that is geared for young people and written in young people's language, the slang that they use, all in Tagalog with beautiful artwork. And that is the I Choose campaign that DepEd is also still using. It's malayaako.ph, and it's a great website. So we've complemented teaching kids in schools as well as in communities. Since the pandemic, we focused a little bit more on communities. It's a little bit easier to gather young people there. But it is comprehensive sex ed, whether information online or in person, has to be coupled with accessibility of services. And then it also, we have to bring our government partners along with us on this road, because otherwise it's not sustainable. So we've done a lot of training teachers, training barangay health workers in how to provide young people with adolescent-friendly services.
Amina, there's a lot of concern over the bill. We talked about disinformation or misinformation going around. What is the age that you start educating the young kids about comprehensive sexual education? Do you have a separate class for it, or is it integrated into subjects? We do know that it's already part of the DepEd curriculum. It's supposed to be integrated in different learning areas. And tell us a little bit about the name of your website, Malaya Ako.
Sure.
There are the parents have apprehensions about this, about rights, about freedoms, and how this is explained to the young kids.
Sure. So it's a bit of a range in terms of the age, but we would start teaching in schools for grade 7 and 8. So that was the youngest. There was a time that we did some grade 6 work, but it was mostly on self-esteem. But then generally we have a puberty module that's intended for grades 7 and 8. And then for grades 9 and 10, there's a reproductive health module that dives a little bit deeper into, contraception. How does it work? How does pregnancy happen? And then for grade 11 and 12, it's more detail on the basics of reproductive health, as well as more information on HIV and life choices and relationships. And we did this because, as Senator Hontiveros and other advocates have been stressing, comprehensive sexuality education is age appropriate. You don't give all the information to all the kids all at once. So you give just the right amount for their age group, for the things that they're dealing with and thinking about. And that's why we start with puberty. And that's the changes in body that kids are going through, getting periods, things like that. And it is just really important to keep stressing that it's age appropriate, and we're not going to be teaching children things that aren't appropriate for them. The website that I mentioned, it's Malaya Ako, because the campaign is I Choose. And if you look at the website, it's focused on a lot of different subject areas. And so there is stuff about growing up, and so that's puberty. There's stuff about reproductive health, pregnancy, HIV, but then there's also a big component about mental health, about friendships, about how to navigate those things. And because it was created during the pandemic, there's also some information on COVID and just staying healthy. So it's very much appropriate with what kids are going through, but it also can be a tool for parents, actually. So parents who are concerned about what their kids are learning, I do understand that. I'm a parent myself, but I think what's important to keep stressing is that comprehensive sexuality education in schools is not going to take away anything from a parent teaching their child. And if it spurs a parent to teach their child earlier than they might have, that's probably a good thing, because the earlier that you start talking to your kids about sexuality, the less shame there'll be about it, the more likely kids will open up to their parents. Because right now, if a parent suddenly just tries to talk to their child when they're 16 or 17 and, to sit down to have the talk, if they've never talked about this before, it's going to be so awkward. And most young people do report that they don't really talk to their parents about this because it's not something that they've grown up with.
I think we
So
can
that's
all
another
agree.
important thing.
None of us want to talk to our parents about that stuff. That's just like
Exactly.
the last person you want to ask is your mom. But can we step back though, and why do we have to legislate CSE to begin with? Like you said, depends. It's already in the curriculum. Public schools, private schools. How important is a law on CSE or comprehensive sex ed, really? And do we really need this?
Sure. Well, because of the RH bill, we've already had comprehensive sexuality education in the law, and it was deemed constitutional by the Supreme Court. But the problem is that implementation has been really spotty. So in some places, it has maybe been implemented very well. In other places, maybe half-heartedly. In some others, not at all. And so one of the things that the bill was trying to do was basically standardize this and make it more, standardize it, have it be the same so that no child is disadvantaged based on whether their particular school or province is being headed by someone who's more conservative and who doesn't want them to have that education. It calls for both private and public schools to implement this. I know that there is some overlap in terms of what was already there, but this new bill was trying to basically strengthen the areas that were basically gaps in the reproductive health law. So hopefully this will eventually pass, especially when people realize that they're really getting upset over things that don't even exist in the bill. But there is already a provision for comprehensive sex ed, and it is a step in the wrong direction if we're now trying to remove this completely, because as we've said, this teen pregnancy continues to be a problem, and the longer that there's these issues and some kids are not getting it, the more at risk they will be. And it is important, the government is a duty bearer for this, because not all children can get this from their parents. So we can't say leave it to the parents, because what about the kids who are in abusive households or in households where the parents are absent, or even just a very loving household, but one in which the parent doesn't know about this or doesn't feel comfortable? If they don't get that information, then they are at risk for having an unplanned pregnancy.
Right, so the bill really is about ensuring access to knowledge for all, not just the ones, who are lucky enough to be in regions where sexuality education is good. But also, what did you make of the fact that one of the more contentious wordings turned out to be based on international standards, which a lot of people got up in arms about? From what you've seen, does that have any basis at all?
No, not at all. International law is not something that this isn't even a law, right? I mean, this is a guideline. But anything with the UN agencies and things, they're just suggestions. The Philippines is a sovereign nation. No other country or entity can force us to do something that we don't want. And Senator Ontiveros has even taken that out, and just because it's not actually that important to what the bill is trying to do. It was simply to show that there are international guidelines because there's so much research that has gone into this. And sayang naman if we don't use the gains from research and from experiences of other countries that lead to these guidelines. These are recommendations of best practices, but they're very clear that you pick and choose. You pick what is appropriate for your culture, you pick what is appropriate for your situation. And if it's not something that matches what your students need, what your learners need, then you don't use it. So that's something
Amina,
that Senator,
I'm
sure.
very curious about your discoveries on the capacity of teachers to be able to educate, to communicate this to the kids, because we do know we do quite have a relatively conservative culture across the country. What have your findings been?
Sure. We have trained about 6,500 teachers in how to teach comprehensive sex ed, and they are all scared. They're really scared to do this because that's part of the reason why CSE hasn't been implemented as it should have been since the RH bill became a law. The teachers have not been equipped, and not everyone has been trained. So teachers, because we have to remember that we have generations of Filipinos who have not had any sex ed. So teachers haven't had sex ed, and parents haven't had sex ed. And the fear that most adults have is that the young people they're talking to know more than they do.
Right.
And the teachers especially are so scared that they're going to lose control of the classroom because the kids are going to be like lewd, it's going to be bastos, they're going to be like bringing up things that completely derail.
Yeah.
In fact, that hasn't really happened. But that's the fear. So teachers definitely need that support so that they have more confidence in teaching the materials.
Lots of groundwork to lay for this. We're going to have to leave that there for tonight. We'll pick it up with you another time. But thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your insights.
Thank
that
you.
was Palawan-based
Thanks so much for having me.
Roots of Health Executive Director Amina Evangelista Swanipol.
Before we say goodbye for tonight, here is our big picture. And it is the new headquarters of the Philippine Star. The unveiling of the 5-story building at Anvil City, Sucat, Parañaque signals a new beginning for the media company. Their previous headquarters was over at Manila's port area. And this design group for the new building, composed of Zoe Lorenzo Amador, Nicolay Tuason C., and Cristina Banzon, used the Star's core values of truthful, credible, and fair journalism for the building's new look. The new design features transparency, spacious interiors, and common areas to foster collaboration. MVP Group Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan led the ribbon-cutting ceremony yesterday, and he was joined by Philippine Star President and CEO Miguel Belmonte, its Editor-in-Chief Ami Pamintuan, Chief Justice Alexander Esmundo, and Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin.
But a new chapter, a new dawn for the Philippine Star. We have navigated through pivotal moments in our nation's history, unwavering commitment to truth, excellence, and service to the Filipino people.
Congratulations, and they've done very well through the many years that we've invested in this broadsheet. Even during the pandemic, Star produced profits during those years, and last year was one of the highest profits I've ever registered. So it's a tribute to the management team and to the people of the Star for doing so well.
beautiful new office for the Philippine Star, but we have clear run out of time. That's it for the big story tonight.
We're One News all sides all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.
Stay tuned because coming up next is Play-by-Play with Andre Felix and Pauline Versosa.
Good
Meron bang
evening.
anniversary dyan?
Ha?
Dito meron kami
Happy
celebrate
anniversary.
Melania and Donald Trump.
Parang napaka-exciting
Only
ng mga
her, by the
outfit.
way. Only her.
Ano,
Very
Madam
nice
Red?
though,
Not,
very
not
nice.
us.
Hindi, pero maganda.
She's the only one who
Yes.
wore a dress for Melania's
Nakuha yung
anniversary.
memo?
Alam mo guys,
Hindi mo sinabihan eh.
never ko nakukuha yung mga memo.
But kamusta? How's your day? Ano ba? Friday na ba? At tomorrow pa?
Friday bukas.
Tomorrow,
One more
tomorrow.
day
One
before
more
the
day.
weekend.
Oo nga.
And kayo?
Ha?
What do you have for us?
Sama ko si Lady in Red.
Safe si Pawi ngayon kasi hindi siya nakaupo.
Exactly.
Yes, it's the only time I can wear red.
That's what she was saying. Telling me kanina kasi hindi red yung ano. But on the show tonight, thank you once again to Tita Shawn, to Madam Regina, and Your Majesty, Your Honor, Gretchen.
First lady.
Curtsy.
On the show tonight, we've got a career game for the NBA's MVP frontrunner Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, plus another entry in the ongoing drama between Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat.
And we've also got the results of the Australian Open women's singles semis. Who's heading to the final round in Melbourne?
I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Pauline Versosa, sitting in for Cheska Liton-Calao.
And here's tonight's play-by-play.